Bless up guys, Yannick Reed here and welcome back to another YouTube video. I'm sharing my thoughts on my experience using the rare and special Leica Q3. So someone reached out to me and asked if I would like to test this camera, to which I said obviously yes, because how could you deny the chance to test a Leica? So I've had this for about a month and a half, testing it in different ways. I just wanted to share with you my honest thoughts and opinions. This is not sponsored. So this is the Leica Q3. Leica is a camera company based in Germany, known for making very premium and expensive rare cameras. This camera retails for 6,700 MSRP. It's fully made out of brass, a unibody design, and the key feature of the Leica Q3 is that it's a fixed lens camera, meaning that this lens that's on here, a 28mm lens, it cannot be removed. That's what it comes with. So that's the focal length that you will be using for the duration of your time with this camera. As I mentioned before, it possesses a 28mm 1.7 aperture lens. The camera does have a little bit of weight to it, more than, you know, the average point and shoot camera of this size. This is the size, it doesn't get any more compact than this. So this camera is not pocketable. So the Leica Q3's camera controls are all around on physical dials on the lens. You can change the aperture ring here. There's a shutter speed ring up here. You can program this button to control other things. You can control your shutter or your aperture with this. And then on the back, it's very minimal, with just about a few buttons just laid out over on the side here. These two buttons here are active and you can customize them. This is also a button here that you can customize. For my shooting style, I made this to ISO. That way all of my shutter speed, my aperture and ISO can just be controlled throughout this part of the camera. So in talking about the camera's design and the buttons on the camera, you have to talk about the handling, which is what I would mention as the first con of the Leica Q3. While this is a beautiful camera, honestly, the handling can sometimes feel a little bit clumsy. I have very big hands and it doesn't feel like there's a lot of space to grip the camera. When you're bringing it to your eye and stuff like that, that's fine. There's a lot of support here. If you're trying to hold the camera, especially one-handed vertically, it's very difficult. This camera came with an extended grip to make it easier to hold on to, because there's no grip along here and it would really just be in danger of dropping the camera. So this being in here makes it a little bit easy to handle. But overall, I find while all of the materials are premium and very rock solid, moving the dials and handling the camera sometimes felt very uncomfortable. In terms of other aspects of handling, is that there is an articulating screen, so you can look down into shooting, as well as the camera itself, I find boots up very quickly, so you can get from off to shooting very quickly. That's dope. The viewfinder on this camera is very bright, very easy to see even in direct sunlight. The digital viewfinder inside the lens, so when you look in here, it's very large, meaning when you look in there, it's just a very high resolution screen in there, so it's very easy to see what's in focus and what's not in focus. I'm going to jump into talking about image quality on the Leica Q3. That is the biggest pro of this camera. A lot of people debate if Leica has a look, and some people debate if people are saying that just because of how much money was spent on the camera. And I think that's a reasonable thing to say. The raw files coming out of this, so bear in mind, this is 61 megapixels, so that's generally huge. Just have so much information, is that there's so much information in the highlight, the midtones and the shadows. So it's very difficult to clip your highlights on this camera. It was so reliable to shoot in bright sun or in high contrast scenes, because I know that there's so much detail in the highlights that I would be able to recover it in editing. I think there's a lot of information in the colors as well. The images that I'm going to be sharing on screen are all images that I took myself and I edited in Lightroom with my own presets, especially shooting human subjects or subjects with a lot of color. The color detail is great. Being a black person and shooting other black people, sometimes some color sciences on cameras have a very difficult time resolving black skin because we kind of fall sometimes into the shadow range. Shooting people on this camera, the results were always just really immaculate because it was able to capture just the highlights of the tones all the way to the shadows of the tones. And when you have so much detail from the high end to the low end, I find that the ultimate result is that you have more flexibility in what you would like your end contrast to be in your image. So like comparing it with my camera here, this is the Fuji X100T, which is a much older camera. I find that the highlight control on this is very easy for the highlights to clip on the Fuji X100T. I have to shoot in a way where I preserve the highlights more. And you know, with the files being 61 megapixels, there's a whole lot of space to crop into your images if needed. And that is where I will move into talking about, you know, also the shooting experience with this camera and shooting with 28 millimeters. So the Leica Q3 actually comes with some settings that like encourage like cropping. Like I think it has a 50 millimeter, 75 millimeter, and a 90 millimeter. I didn't per se make use of those features because I just find it to be a digital crop, and if I want to crop my images, I'd rather just take full image and I'll crop in post. But for people who may just want to kind of punch in to see what's going on, that option is there in camera. 28 millimeters is a not so common focal length. I found myself to really enjoy it. While 35 millimeter is my favorite focal length, and the resulting focal length of the X100T, the X100T possesses a crop sensor, an APS-C sensor inside, whereas this is a full frame sensor. 128 millimeters is a little bit wide. I'm shooting this on 28 millimeters, as well as plus with just the fullness of a full frame sensor, you not only get more light, but you also get more depth of field. So your images have that more three-dimensional effect. It just resulted in a overall really pleasant experience. The Leica Q3 is really positioned to be like an everyday camera, meaning a camera that you would hopefully bring with you through your life, not necessarily just on professional jobs, but for documentation and capturing everyday to-day life, even though it is not the most portable in form factor. So I say how 28 millimeters works with that is that 28 millimeters as a focal length, I think, is close enough for you to be able to separate the subject from the background, but wide enough that you can take someone's image and there is enough space around them to give context. You'll have an idea of what the person, where the person is, and just a little bit of the surrounding context. So the Leica Q3, I think, is a great camera for documentation, for telling stories. I would carry this camera to family outings, friendly outings. I also brought this camera to Reggae Sumfest to shoot stage as well as document off stage, to which I think this camera really plays to its strong points. I'll be honest with just really loving the experience with this camera in this way. Obviously this camera isn't mine and I'm excited to use it because of the brand and the prestige, but there was always just such a genuine joy to bring back the images from this camera into Lightroom, apply my presets and see what I was gonna get. It was always just such a good result. I have my other cameras like my Sony, which I'm shooting this on, my Sony A7 III, my Fuji. Sometimes you will be shooting and then you'll bring it back and you might say, oh, lost a little bit of the highlights, or oh, maybe I have to bring it up or stuff like that, still resulting in an end image. But I just found that the Leica's success rate in terms of delivering just such a wow factor for me was really high. As a lifestyle photographer, a documentation photographer, this was really fun shooting with because it just was really good at making mundane aspects look really wow. So there are a very impressive video specs as it pertains to this camera. This camera shoots 8K 10-bit internally, and it can also shoot ProRes internally at 1080p. Truth be told, I didn't test any of the video features on this camera as I really wanted to focus more on photo, as that's what Leica is really known for. And a camera of this size factor, I am more thinking about this for photo, is it has a very interesting what feels like AI-based autofocusing system where you can have it on face or subject detection. It will very quickly identify objects and bodies in the camera, and it will identify multiple bodies at the same time. And what's really cool is you can just use the D-pad to tell it which subject to select. That was really, really impressive. I found it to have a solid battery life for the use case that I use it for, walking around as a daily photography camera. I could get more than a day's use out of the battery in that fashion. For doing it for like a more serious project, like say shooting some fest as a whole documentation project, I would say, you know, you're at an event maybe like a 4 or 5 hours. I would say 2/3 of the time there I was on one battery and didn't have to change until the end of the time there. So I personally felt very satisfied with the battery. I didn't have any battery anxiety. For the time that I use it, I very rarely had to change the battery. And also, just keeping it honest, it's really fun to shoot with, you know? It's a very beautiful camera, and just the reward of all of the images that you do bring back, having so much information, so much detail, it makes you excited to shoot things because you're just excited of the beauty that you can bring out later. Cons, other than the ones that I've mentioned before, like handling, the raw files are very huge for some people that maybe are negative. They bounce anywhere between like 68 megabytes to I've seen as large as 88 megabytes per file. So you can fill up a memory card really quickly with that. And obviously the glaring factor of what makes Leica, the price tag. This camera is very expensive. It is $6,700 US. You're just getting the camera with that. I don't even know if it comes with an additional battery. That's more expensive than I read. This is an extremely expensive camera. Who is this camera for? I think this camera is really for a really passionate photo enthusiast who is really interested in doing like documentation. This is a great camera to walk around with as like a daily camera. Again, as I say, it's not pocketable, but you know, you have it in a sling bag or whatever, you're discreet. Especially the design of this camera, it gets positive reactions whether people know Leica or not. It's just very fun to shoot people and things with. People engage positively when they see the camera. So I'd say this is for somebody who obviously has the disposable income to just get a camera that's really extremely fun. But what I would say is that the price tag is not a feature that hampers the camera, meaning you're not paying $6,700 to get what anyone would say a mediocre camera. This is an extremely fun camera to shoot with. I do believe that the tools that you use can enhance your experience. Shooting with this camera, it gave me an excitement that made me want to pull it out. You know, it made me think more about photography. It made me want to see, all right, what would that look like as a photo? What would that look like as a photo? That's a really nice experience in terms of enjoying photography as an art form. I would not necessarily say go and buy this camera or save up for this camera. If you have $6,700 to buy this camera, you've probably already made the decision to buy this camera and not watching this video. Just experiencing, maybe you can rent it for a period of time and have some fun and have the experience. But I think the key closing point that I would want to make and be honest about using this camera does not replace any camera or tool that I already have. This camera is just a really fun and enjoyable experience in terms of photography, coupled with files that just have a little bit more information to them. I would say it as akin to driving like a luxury sports car. When you drive your car everywhere day to day and it's comfortable, it's getting you from point A to point B efficiently, effectively. But a sports car is something that you have fun driving, it enhances the experience, but it's not necessarily something that you have to own. That's what I would compare this to. I wouldn't necessarily take my money and buy it, but this is definitely an amazing photography experience. But if you want a similar experience for a little less, I would encourage you to look into Fujifilm, specifically the X100 line. This is the X100T. This series of cameras has gone extremely viral. It's on the 6th iteration. You can find anywhere like the X100T to 6 on eBay and probably try and get a used one. And it's giving a very similar experience to what the Leica is giving. But what's great about these cameras is that they have really exceptional film simulation that gets you beautiful images right out of the camera. So if you're not trying to drop $6,700, but still maybe somewhere around $3,000, $2,000. The older the camera, the cheaper it is, the newer the camera, the more expensive camera it is. But this is what I would recommend if you want a Leica-like experience for less money. As you can see, I have one. I have an old one. I love this one. I want to hear from you. Shoot me down in the comments. Let me know. Do you think this is just an extremely overpriced machine? Do you think I'm overhyping it? Would you try a camera like this? Would you buy a camera like this? I'd love for us to have a conversation in the comments. If there's anything that I missed out, drop them down in the comments so that other people can gain some information. And yeah, those are my thoughts on the Leica Q3. And thank you so much for watching, and continue to bless up yourself.